Coming up on this episode of the Elite Recruiter Podcast.
You sold your company for $28 million.
Correct.
How was that? How did it feel?
How did it feel?
How did it feel?
One thing that people say often, though, is that fear of other people. Like, what are people going to think when all of a sudden I'm changing my branding? Like, literally no one cares. They'll forget within a week. Like, nobody cares. You just start owning it. Just start doing something different and just own it and just do it. Don't be afraid of that. People are not talking about your LinkedIn branding with their families over dinner.
Welcome to the Elite Recruiter Podcast with your host, Benjamin Mena, where we focus on what it takes to win in the recruiting game. We cover it all from sales, marketing, mindset, money, leadership, and placements.
Recruiters, imagine having a recruiting sidekick that works 24 hours a day. Meet Pin, your AI-powered assistant that never sleeps. Pin combs through over 850 million candidate profiles to find perfect fits for your clients, even those hard-to-find unicorns. It then engages them across email, LinkedIn, and SMS with smart outreach that gets nearly half of candidates to respond. And Pin doesn't stop there. It automatically screens resumes with pinpoint precision and handles the back and forth of interview scheduling for you. It's like having an extra team member who never clocks out, so you can fill roles faster and focus on closing deals. Visit pin.com to book your demo today.
I am so excited about this episode of the Elite Recruiter Podcast because I have one of my friends coming back for round 2. And we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about living the dream. Because, so many people go out to build a recruiting company for many different reasons. One of those reasons is you want to build it, scale it, and sell it. She sold hers for $28 million. So we're going to talk about that. The first episode, if you want to deep dive onto how we got there, go back and listen to the first episode. We're going to talk about the fun stuff after the sale. But it was also a super important thing that we're going to talk about after that. It's about the niche. And it's why you need to find the niche, how you find the niche, and what happens if you might need to change your niche. Because the riches are in the niches. And yes, there's a lot of great recruiters out there just specializing in the generalists, but the ones that I'm talking to constantly that are the big billers or have scaled big firms, riches are in the niches. So Diane Prince, I'm so excited to have you back.
Hey, Benjamin. How is my favorite podcaster?
Whatever. Whatever. Well, real quick, before we start having fun, give everybody a quick 30 seconds about what you got going on, a little bit about yourself, in case this is the first time they've heard you.
Yeah, I'm Diane Prince, and I have, my newest staffing agency is people kept on asking me, why aren't you starting another staffing agency? So I'm staffing offshore virtual assistants and integrators and sourcers for staffing agencies and recruiting agencies. So I'm very excited about that. It's going really well. We also work with other small businesses and coaches and consultants. So if anyone needs a virtual assistant, this is my plug before the show. I also coach. I still do some executive coaching for staffing agency owners and recruiting agency owners.
Okay, so before we start having fun, real quick, VAs, should everybody have one?
Can I just have fun now too?
Yeah, have fun now.
Everyone, yes. Honestly, yes, everyone should. It's the way to scale. It's the way to be competitive. And virtual assistants, I set out this iteration, this business, this part of my career, I set out to build a business where my main function was to clearly express my vision and have other people execute it. And there's so many phenomenal people. We are mostly working with people in the Philippines. We also have people at other parts of the world. But yes, it's unbelievable how much you can get done with such incredible people. So highly recommend.
And you do all the vetting for them. You find them for us?
Oh yeah. I actually have my counterpart I have a head integrator in the Philippines. She's amazing. So she's my counterpart there. We also have someone in India who's head of sourcing. So we have it's dialed in. Not only do we find the people, but we also help with strategic guidance along the way. So it's not just finding a random person on Upwork or Fiverr and figuring out how to manage them.
It's one of the things we've had this conversation offline. You're like, Ben, you need help, which I probably need help when I'm working 90 hours a week, putting on summits while we're still recruiting and the podcasting and everything else that happens. But in saying that, I remember the first time I tried doing a VA and man, I think I spent $7,000 getting burned and got nothing out of it.
Yeah. One thing that we do, we hear that a lot. We also manage other VAs. So when you work with us, you get an integrator. And then they can, because it can be difficult and managing VAs is a big part of it, how to manage them. And if you get that right, I wanted to crack the code on that. And I can't live without my team. So I'm really excited to share with other people.
I was just like, spend all this money. I'm just going to do it myself. Thought they were doing some stuff, started looking at the numbers behind the scenes, what they were telling me they were tracking versus like what was actually being tracked. And it was just like a complete black and white difference. And, it's just like, I think it's a problem that most of us recruiters have is like trying to be superhuman and do everything. But that's a whole other discussion.
And we do tracking, like we do weekly meetings with tracking and metrics, and it's very structured. So that doesn't happen.
But I blame, like everybody listening, I just threw my pen. I blame myself.
Yeah.
Like 100% on me. Like I should have done so much better, but you live and learn and have some fun. But we're going to talk about, let's jump to talking about the dream. You sold your company for $28 million.
Correct.
How was that? How did it feel?
How did it feel?
How did it feel? Let's start there. Let's start.
Yeah, it was epic. Yeah.
How, from when you actually got the check to like when you started the process, how long did that take?
It was long, but I mean, you have to understand when I say it was long, the whole business, like we started it, it was from starting the business to exiting was only 6 years. So whereas the process seemed long, but the last year was pretty much going through the process. We had one deal that we thought was going to close. Their accounting team was in LA from New York, from the trade towers doing due diligence when 9/11 happened. And so that deal fell through. Not only did that deal fall through, but the economy was just in shambles for a while after that. And then we decided we were going to hunker down, not sell at that point. It was very depressing because we thought we had this deal. We ended up getting a better deal. But then that whole process lasted several months. It was about 7 months of working through the deal. It was a lot.
Okay. So like when somebody hears like, hey, I just sold my company for 28 million, like, you've built the company, you scaled the company, you had like, what was it? $1 million weeks in revenue, like because you were on the staffing side of the house. But like, what were some of the things that like they dug into and they looked at and they were analyzing to make the deal actually go through?
Yeah. One thing that's really important is having solid books. That's one thing people ask, like, what would you do differently? And I would always start with a bookkeeper. You start with a bookkeeper, start with a solid accountant. So that's really important. Other things they look at, they look at recurring revenue. They look at how deep you are with it, which is why I love staffing versus like direct hire, because you're so entrenched in your clients so that their employees, like they can't run their business without you at a certain point when you have so many temps there or contractors there. So they look at that. They look at the diversity of your client base. You can't have any one client take up too much of your revenue share. They look at team. Team is incredibly important. But I will say because I've had some other exits and every single one was different and for a different reason. So you're probably not, it's kind of hard to predict who's going to buy you and what they're going to want from it.
And I know you said this in the first episode, like, where did you meet the people to get the deal done?
Yeah. Well, for the $28 million exit, we hired an investment banker. What happens with them is they shop the deal. So they put together what's called a book, and it costs a lot of money, like thousands of dollars to put together this book, which is basically like your pitch, the pitch, your story. And then they shop it out to potential buyers. So that was the first stage when we found that what the first company that was going to buy us was TMP. They were the holding company who owned Monster.com. And their reason was they were buying up a bunch of staffing companies. We had some other, like what they do is they'll bring a few deals to the table. So like one was a private equity firm. Mayor Reardon of LA was in that one, which was kind of interesting. So there are a few different like random, like you just don't know. So there were strategic buyers and then PE firms. And then, we choose, and then you go down the path. And then, so we were really excited about that deal with TMP. And then that fell through. And then we decided we were going to kind of hunker down and it wasn't a good time to sell after 9/11. And so we actually hired someone to start looking for businesses for us to buy. His first call, he called a business broker who was like, we have someone who might want to buy you. And then that's what happened. And the reason that they bought us was completely different. There are two main reasons. And one was they were in tech and we were in title insurance. They wanted another niche. They wanted to add to diversify their business. We brought in a C-level executive at a certain point because we always took the steps towards selling and extricating ourselves. And they also wanted him. So that was perfect.
Oh, so they like really like zoned in on the leadership. Okay, this is going to sound dumb. Like, why didn't they headhunt that leader instead of taking the whole package?
That is a really good question. But yeah, I don't know because so the CEO is a publicly traded company called Hall Kenyon. The CEO, Brenda Hall, she wanted to retire and like take acting lessons. And I think also because they wanted our business too, like they wanted our, so it was, I think like through the acquisition, they were able to like afford a replacement for her and then also get that big stream of revenue. And then they sold to Kforce a few months later.
That's crazy. So they were buying you guys to sell again.
Yeah, I don't know if that was their intention, but they did very, very shortly after that. And then Kforce, so we were called OnStaff, and then Kforce actually ran that division for years. It was called Kforce OnStaff. So that was OnStaff was the business we started.
Okay. So when that money hit your account,
yes.
Were you guys like officially separated for the business, or did you guys get like locked in for like another year of having to do stuff or advising or something of that nature?
Yeah. So, we had like an 18-month contract.
Okay.
But sometimes they didn't really have us do anything.
Okay. The money hit your guys' account. What was the first thing that you guys did?
It was so funny because I remember really clearly, we had 2 little kids and I did not know yet that I was pregnant with my 3rd one. I found out when we were about to celebrate and we had a limousine waiting and I did the pregnancy test. I'm like, why did I do it before the party? But anyway, so we were actually, we lived in Malibu and we were driving through the canyon to go to Toys R Us. I don't know why we were headed to Toys R Us. There's no cell service typically in the canyon. So we got to the valley and then we saw the wire hit and then we went to Toys R Us.
I mean, I got a kid, so I get it. Like, Toys R Us is a place to celebrate, especially with after selling your company for $28 million. Hey guys, pick your favorite G.I. Joe and Barbie.
Exactly.
Well, okay, let's fast forward. Like, how'd your life change?
Well, life changed a lot. And we ended up, so we were a married couple. And so we were always working and had the business. And then that went away and we had the kids and each other. And that was a big change. And we were young. And we had a lot of money in the bank all of a sudden. So it was a lot. Like it was a lot to handle. We were 33. So we were 27 when we started the business. We were 33. It was a lot.
And out of curiosity, like you guys could have like with that kind of money probably just rode off into the sunset.
Mm-hmm.
But you've been back building more businesses. Like why?
It's such an interesting question to me because it's like, okay, so we got $10 million. That was our cut. Like, so we had 10 million in cash.
Okay.
Or, that was our deposit because we had other partners and taxes and things like that. So that was actually our plan, but it is a funny question because it's like, it's a big amount, it's a life-changing amount, but like compared to like so many people, it's a small amount. There's so many people, it's like look at, Jeff Bezos or, it's like, so it is kind of a funny question, but, I'll be totally frank is that like, we got greedy. Like at one point, we had this plan and there were a lot of things that happened. Like we ended up getting divorced and there's a lot of like gnarly stuff in the background, but we thought, well, let's do it again. And we had this accountant who was, I think he was a little bit shady. And he was like, what was interesting too, is he was like, no, you need more money. And we kind of bought into that. So we started another business. And so that was one thing that we learned or at least I'll speak for myself that I learned is just because you had did it and had a giant exit, the subsequent businesses you're still sitting down at the poker table again.
Well, how about this? Like you had the advice, you started another business. Looking back, like with everything that you know now, you've had multiple exits, you've had building another staffing agency. Would you do anything different with that money?
Yeah, I would have for sure. I probably wouldn't have started a business so soon. Like I love what I'm doing now. It's just, this is such a good stage of my career and entrepreneurship. But no, I probably would have yeah, would have. And I mean, there were dynamics between the two of us, and like I didn't necessarily want to start the business. So there were dynamics like that. I would have taken much more time off. And then we ended up selling that second business. I ended up taking it over. It was crazy, like during our divorce. One of my emails that I'm like, I got to take out this email, but it's in my email sequence. So if you want to get my newsletter, one of them is when I fired my husband, because then
I just saw that one today. I was like, that one came through today as I was like prepping my questions. I was like, I don't know if I should ask any questions around this.
And I'm like, every time I see it, my coach was like, you got to talk about that. And I'm like, it's so cringy though. And I don't know, but then I'm like, I don't know. I haven't changed it, but that did happen. Like there was a lot of dark stuff. And then I ended up taking over that business. And that one I sold to the former chairman of Adecco, and they were the biggest staffing company in the world at that time. That was a whole like crazy thing. So I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but I would have. And then after that, when I sold that, then I started a clothing business, which I definitely would not have done that again. I would have gone off into the sunset, at least for a while, and chilled out. Like I would have just, taken some time.
Was it like a Malibu beach boutique clothing business?
No, it was a home party, like Mary Kay business. So I had women, I had over about 350 women that I recruited around the country who sold in home parties.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, your specialization was recruiting.
The great parts about it were, yes, it was the recruiting and then the coaching, because a lot of it, was like about like coaching the women. And that ended up being my favorite part. And I think the thing that most people took away from it. I had women after I closed, and I had it for about, was it 5 years, 3 to 5 years, something like that, maybe 4 years. And then when I closed it, I mean, women, they're still saying to me, hey, I started this business from what I learned. And so there were a lot of good things that came out of it, but yeah, and I will never have inventory again.
Well, let me ask you, like, we talked about some of the fun stuff that you did. We've talked about some of the crazy stuff. If you could name like one dumb thing that you did, the dumbest thing you did after selling the business, what would that be?
Dumbest thing. And I knew that was a question you were going to ask me. And how do I even choose?
I was hoping it wasn't going to be that many.
A lot of dumb things, but we just spent too much money. We just spent a lot of money. Yeah.
Would you have saved more looking back?
Yeah.
Invested more, I should say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Wouldn't have taken so many risks afterwards. Yes. It's interesting too, Benjamin, because we met people who did the same thing. Like we met before we exited. Like there was this one guy who had talked about buying us, and we were like, oh God, this guy is like, like, why is he starting other businesses or whatever? And then like we ended up doing the same thing. So it's easier. It's much easier to hear the stories and think you're above them. And then, at least for me, than making the same mistakes.
So maybe invest a little more, taking some actual time off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I would say like I did spend like most of my 30s, I was mostly retired. Like we had some other businesses. We had a VMS company that we ended up selling. Like, so we did some things like that we invested in, which was fine. So I did spend quite a bit of time, like most of my 30s, mostly retired, but with small kids and stuff. So
I want to talk about that. Like, let's talk about like what retired life with small kids in your 30s looks like. I mean, it's like the place where you have like the absolute most energy. You understand the most. Let's focus like 5 minutes there.
Yeah. That was an amazing time. That was amazing.
Paint me that picture. You're in your 30s, you're retired with your kids. What's life like?
Yeah. I mean, being like 33 and 2 kids went on the way. Like it was great. I mean, because we had the money to do whatever. Kind of did get to our head though, because everybody was like, oh, you guys are so awesome. Having sold the business and then having that time, I appreciated it so much because it was an accomplishment. So it wasn't like, I can't really imagine if I but like I didn't work and just, I don't know. I felt good about it, like just doing whatever, So for a while, I mean, we lived on the beach in Malibu and I was stand-up paddleboarding and I was in insane shape, like working out with my trainer. We traveled, went to like the Amazon rainforest. I mean, there were some really cool things that we did. And then, I could be there for my kids. We did have help. We had a lot of help with the kid. Like we had a nanny and a housekeeper. So that was nice. But it was, I mean, it was funny too, because like some of the parents, especially the moms, because mostly moms who were, picking up the kids and stuff. And they'd be like, they were so busy. And I'm like, in relation to, because I had that experience building a business, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, I read a novel today. I'm like, why are you so busy? Like, I think it was just such a different view. I'm like, what's busy? Like, you drop the kids off from school. I'm like, what do you have to do? I don't know. It's like not at all to like diminish the role of stay-at-home parents. One thing that was super interesting though was how people like revered my ex-husband because he took the kids to school. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm taking them to school. You're all taking your kids to school. So that was like, yeah, people were like, what does he do all day? And I was like, well, what do you do all day?
If you want a really good laugh, earlier this week, I took my son for a run, I think on like a Wednesday morning.
Uh-huh.
We went for a 5-mile run and I got stopped by a car. I was like, you're with your kid. Like, that's not normal. And I'm like, yeah, why can't a guy be with my kid?
Yeah, I know. Then, yeah, it's crazy.
I digress though. Back to like living the dream, like house in Malibu, spending time with your family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, reading, doing things I enjoyed. It was great. It was really nice. Mm-hmm.
Best trip that you guys took?
The Amazon rainforest, that was awesome. That was probably the best one. Yeah, we went to the Caribbean a lot. I still do. I still do that stuff.
I want to shift gears a little bit. Like, you guys were able to sell the business because you guys specialized in a niche.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Do you think you would have been able to sell the business if you were generalized and all over the place?
We would have probably been able to sell it, but we would have not had the valuation we had, and the particular business that bought us did buy us partially because of our niche. That's also, by the way, why K-Force bought them, because of that niche.
Well, I want to kind of go into like, there's riches in the niches. We talk about that, but I think a lot of recruiters out there struggle sometimes with finding the niche that works for them, or finding like where they want to focus. You hear this, you hear that, like, I want to jump here, jump there. AI is super cool, but then you got somebody that's actually just doing back-end fashion recruiting, making $1 million a year. Like, there's so many options that we have as recruiters.
Yes.
Where do we land? Where do we start?
Well, I really believe in and I have a 9-step tool to building your niche. We'll give the link to that. But I really believe in keeping things as simple as possible. So when we started our business, it wasn't like we were recruiters and then decided to start a staffing agency and then tried to figure out the niche. It was all like, let's start a temp agency for title insurance. That was the idea. So the niche was even like just part of the idea. It was really good timing. It's important to have niche market fit. A lot of times people are afraid to niche. They think they're going to miss out on other business. They tend to complicate it. I hear so many people thinking that they're going to go into healthcare staffing, but they have no experience in healthcare. So I say, like, keep it simple. Keep it close to what you already know how to do and where you have the most connections. And then, there's other work to do to make sure that there's demand, but keep it simple and make it easy. And like, we were the first ones to do our niche nationwide. There were some small companies, which was funny because we just started and we were tiny, but we kind of always had that attitude of being bigger. Business is like putting a puzzle together. Just look at your puzzle pieces and see what is going to be the best niche for you.
Well, why are recruiters afraid to commit?
The biggest reason is because they think they're going to limit themselves. They think they're going to miss out on opportunities. And a lot of times they're already generalists and they're afraid that their messaging is going to alienate their existing clients.
How do you get over that fear?
I actually experienced it when I first started coaching, because I even did not follow my own advice, and I coached all kinds of founders. I didn't just coach staffing and recruiting agency owners. I coached tech founders and everybody, all kinds of business owners. And then I hired a coach, and he said, "Why are you not niching into recruiting?" And the second I did, everything changed. I went from cold outreach to getting clients to all of a sudden just flood of incoming leads. So I had that experience myself, which was so interesting to me. So I think it's just doing it. I mean, let go of that fear, because one thing to understand is if you already have clients, and no one cares about your website, right? You already have clients. They're not going to say, "Oh, Benjamin's doing whatever, like he's doing tech, so we can't use him in logistics anymore, whatever, like it's not going to happen. Okay. If you still have relationships, you can look at niche as a front end issue, where niche is marketing. You can become a specialist in your niche. And I guess some of it is a leap of faith, because once you do have that niche and you let go of everything else and you only speak to your ideal client, things just open up. Like, it's unbelievable when you have the right niche.
Okay. Which you got a point, and I see that constantly. But what happens when your niche is going through a downturn or a downtime? Like, everything is cyclical. Like, I understand that. I've been in the recruiting chair for 19 something years now. Like, I've seen so many cycles, but at the same time, like, some cycles can last a little while longer in certain niches. Like, if your niche is like going through such a horrible time, should you pivot to a new niche or double down on where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a poster child for that, because Countrywide Home Loans was our biggest client in 2009. And their CEO is literally, like, when you Google him, Mazzillo, like Wall Street Journal called him the poster child of the financial crisis. That was our biggest client. They went bankrupt. Then B of A took them over. Bank of America did not become a client of ours. So that happened, like mega, like, to us, like huge. And we did not pivot. Like, we stayed. And because our client base was diversified, and we definitely took a dip, but, and we had added banking as well, but we stuck with it, and things do come back. It depends. Like, you could have roles that are obsolete because they're taken over by technology and things like that. But I think it's always about, like, finding, okay, what's something adjacent? Like, if we can't place these people, we did try healthcare then, didn't work. We didn't know anything about healthcare. It was stupid, but we thought, oh, let's diversify into this. It didn't work. But yeah, I mean, and I think that that's also part of why staffing works, because of the ups and downs. Because if it was always flat, you wouldn't really, I don't know. It's just with the ups and downs, that's what kind of makes it work. The different, cycles of supply and demand of candidates versus clients.
The Elite Recruiter Podcast has multiple summits coming up that you need to make sure that you are registered for. We have the AI Recruiting Summit 2025 coming up. And on top of that, finish the year strong. These two summits are going to help you move the needle, help you achieve your goals, help you achieve your dreams, and make 2025 the year that you started out and you wanted it to be. Make sure you get registered, and also stay tuned. We got something cooking for you guys. Working on another project that you guys are going to absolutely love. All right. See you guys at the summits, and see you guys soon. So you guys did a good job, like, kind of taking over your niche, like your specialized, hyper specialized niche. Mm-hmm. Picture this. Somebody's like, okay, I've narrowed down my niche. This is exactly what I want to do. This is the type of roles I want to focus on. How do I become that go-to person in that whole circle?
Yeah. Just own it. Talk about it. Own it. Like, for me, with my virtual assistant staffing agency, just own it. Like, I'm talking to staffing and recruiting agency owners. Those are the people I service. Now, do I service other small businesses too? Yes. But just own it and answer figure out what your ideal client, what their problems are. Show them how you can solve their problems. That's the kind of content you need to be putting out there on LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever, your newsletter, solving their problems. Okay, don't try to be a thought leader, and nobody really cares, honestly. Solve people's problems, and they will become loyal readers and followers of your content and eventually become clients.
So you said something real quickly. Don't be a thought leader, solve problems. What do you see as the difference between those two things when it comes to actually creating content?
I guess what I see is that people will write about things that everybody's talking about, or things that, like, actual famous people are talking about, like AI, and it is possible to, like, own a segment of that or whatever, but show people how to do things. That's easier. To be a thought leader, you have to be, like, different and have a completely different take. But I see so many people just putting out really boring, bland content that nobody wants to read. What people want to read is, how is this going to help me? That's easier. It's much easier to get a loyal following and turn people into clients when you're actually giving them, like, tools that they can use.
And to give an example of that, like, let's just, dig a little deeper. Well, throw me out there. I create a lot of content. Let's pretend I create zero content.
Okay.
Now, I focus on government contracting. That's my space, mostly the DC market around technology in government contracting in that sector. Like,
Okay.
what kind of stuff should I be sharing to try to solve people's problems, really get out there and start doing this?
What is one of the roles that you like? What is a difficult role that you
I
felt?
would say a difficult role, like the most difficult would be like a software developer with a TSSCI and a full scope poly, but we'll skip that one. Let's go with cloud developers doing an AWS transformation, helping one of the government agencies move over to the cloud.
Okay, so a piece of content that you might do is this is how I placed, like I got this order for this, AWS developer, all the things you said, and in the cloud and for the government. And this is exactly how I recruited for this role. You could take off names and things like that, but
Like, you just share the playbook is what you're saying.
yes.
All day, every day?
Yes. Then what happens is you'll start getting questions from your ideal clients. Now, what I recommend is you figure out where they're talking. Okay. You figure out where your ideal clients are talking to each other. That is not on LinkedIn because people aren't really sharing their deepest, darkest problems on LinkedIn. Okay. It's the customer, I call it the customer copy code. You can figure out where your customers are talking, what they're saying, because they're talking to each other somewhere about their challenges. And then just start answering those questions in public. Just start answering how you would solve their problems.
How many times a week should I be doing this, like on like LinkedIn or whatever other place?
The way I did it is because it was always a struggle for me when I was being more generalist, and it was always a struggle for me to get consistent with LinkedIn. So once I got consistent, everything changed. Once I got super focused on my niche and got consistent. So what I did first is I wrote out a month of posts and I scheduled them. That's what I did at first. I don't do that anymore. I probably could do it sometimes. Then it got to the point where people started reading my content and they started messaging me questions. And then I use that for content. So it's the customers that are telling me what they need to know.
And like a good example, is one of your coachees, Julia.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people go back and look at her content. Like, she's actually absolutely like one of the ones crushing it with LinkedIn content. I think because of that, also her work ethic behind the scenes.
Yeah.
She's almost $1 million and was it 16 months?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. I know. She's just doing it. Like, she's somebody that just is doing it and not like complaining. She learns and she just does it. It's funny because people will hire me and they'll be like, I want you to show me what you showed Julia. And I'm like, I am showing you. Julia just does it. And she also, she has other people that she follows for stuff like that. So I cannot take credit for all of Julia's success. Maybe just a little bit.
Well, I know we talked about a lot of that. Is there anything else that, like, I as a recruiter that hasn't really done this before should be doing to really start owning my niche in the market?
Yeah. I mean, other things you can do to show that you're an expert in your market. And this is pretty easy to do in LinkedIn. If you have even Sales Navigator, you don't even need Recruiter for this, but you can know stats, like how many of those AWS Java developers are there? Like, there's content like that. Like, this is how many unemployed people in this role are. This is, you can get the data. You know how to get the data because you're a recruiter, but your clients probably don't. This is, these are how many are actually in the DC area. Okay. And these are how many that are looking for work. These are how many that are currently employed and passive candidates. You can get all that data just from LinkedIn. You can share that kind of data. That kind of data is interesting to your clients. And that's another way that you can really niche because you can know every single AWS Java developer that has government clearance and whatever in within the DC area. You can get to know that and you can actually own the market that way.
I like that. I love how you laid it out because I actually get a lot of questions to myself, and I'm I constantly tell them I'm not a coach. Go talk to a coach. Like, my job is to bring people together, but I'm you got to kind of go hard on wherever you want to be.
Yeah. And you can't do everything. It's think about athletes or very few people excel. Like, famous people, very few people excel. I mean, some do, but very few people excel in multiple things.
Maybe I should just focus on podcasting if I'm actually paid one day.
You're such
One
a
day.
podcaster. You're like, I get the most incoming. Like, I saw you on Benjamin Menace Summit or podcast. Yes.
Well, it is kind of funny because I think you really just like talking about at the very beginning. It's just like it's the fear of committing. It's the fear of like missing out. It's the fear of like what happens if I pick this for the next 5 years. I'm now taking over this niche and this is what I'm talking about. And what happens if that disappears? What happens if it does that?
One thing that people say often though is that fear of other people. Like, what are people going to think when all of a sudden I'm changing my branding? Like, literally no one cares. They'll forget within a week. Like, nobody cares. You just start owning it. Just start doing something different and just own it and just do it. Don't be afraid of that. People are not talking about your LinkedIn branding with their families over dinner.
I hope most people aren't even checking LinkedIn outside of recruiters over dinner. So I want to take a step back on focusing on kind of your coaching. And you've had a chance to talk to a lot of recruiters.
Yes.
What is some of the things that you've seen that has held recruiters back from winning?
Yeah. I would say there's a few things. One is all of the information that's available. People get analysis paralysis. Back when I started, there was no social media. We had a couple of advisors. We had How to Start a Temp Agency for Dummies book. That was it. And we figured it out. And we did it without, faxing and, paper timesheets and all that stuff. Now there's too much information and people want to know what the right way is to do it, or like which coach should they follow. And what I truly believe in the way I coach people is not like, I don't have a blueprint or nobody does. What it is it's what works best for you. And I think that is so important. Kind of forgot your question. Would you say, what people do wrong? One mistake is they think that there's a certain way they should be doing things. And they look at the competition too much. They look at what they should be doing too much instead of trusting their gut and doing things that, because you might discover things that no one's done before. I think it's harder to do that now because there's so much information. Everybody wants to see what the formula is. Try different things. Some of the best people that I coached never were in recruiting, but they're looking at it from a fresh viewpoint. So they do things differently.
Well, my next question for you is going to be like the ones that are absolutely winning that you've seen, whether coaching or not. What's the differentiating factor for them?
Discipline is a big one. Just doing it. Like, you use Julia as an example. She'll be like, I haven't gotten a client in a couple months. And then she's like, then we talked yesterday and she's like, okay, just like you said, she just closed 3 deals. It's like, just do it. Like, commit to it. And just, you have to do the work and always be building your pipeline. Sales is your lifeline. And a lot of people make the mistake of they'll get some orders, they'll get some recs, and then they start working on the recs, which you need to do because that's the closest to money. But at the same time, you also have to build your pipeline. That's something, a little plug for virtual assistants. Virtual assistants are not necessarily just to take things off your plate that you don't want to do. They're there to help you to 10x, to really build your business. So if you're getting recs and that you don't have time then to sell, you've got to figure out how to do both. You can never stop selling. So people come to me that are like, their pipeline's totally dried up. They don't know what to do because they stopped when they were busy.
Pipeline sales, do the work is what you're saying.
Do the work. Yes. And speak to your ideal client. When you're doing LinkedIn content, speak to your ideal clients. Don't talk to anybody else. Don't talk to anybody else. Only talk to your ideal clients.
If you want to get laughed, that's always been a struggle for me with having the podcast completely different from the client work that I do.
That's why I didn't say don't talk to other recruiters, because I know you do.
It's like the story of my life. Like it has helped because anybody that's in my space, because I post so much, they're like, they know me.
Yes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
If you're connected to me and if you show up on LinkedIn at least once a month, I guarantee you that you see my face.
Yes.
Anyways, we've covered a lot. We've covered living the dream. We've covered what you've learned from a $28 million exit. We talked about you being retired and what that felt like, what you were able to do with spending time with your family and traveling. We also talked about being in niches, which, I'm with you. I see a lot of people afraid to commit, but I see the ones that are committed, some of them are being overloaded with work right now.
Yes.
But in saying that, we've covered a lot. Is there anything else that I didn't touch on that you want to go deeper on before we jump over to the quick fire questions?
Okay, just one more thing. Maybe this might be an answer in your quick. Let's go to quick fire. This might be an answer in your quick fire.
Okay. So, brand new recruiter. Never have been a recruiter before, never have been in the industry, but they chose this as 2025, the year to jump in. They came to you and say, okay, like I want to win. What advice would you give me to have a successful career as a recruiter?
Start with staffing, not direct hire.
Okay.
Do you want me to?
Oh, they don't have to be quick answers.
Okay. They're just quick questions.
You're like, let's go. You're like, next answer. Okay. Next question.
For some reason, it's really hard to go from direct hire to staffing. Staffing's not that complicated. You get an employer of record. If you need one, message me and I will introduce you to them. They will fund your payroll. They will do all of your back office. That is how you get recurring revenue. That is how you get consistency. That is how you build a business that is not crazy. Like some months are zero, other months are whatever. Like it's not feast or famine. Start with staffing.
For those listening, like that haven't done staffing, how do you sell staffing then?
How do you sell staffing?
Yeah. How do you sell it? How do you get that first client? It's sell staffing.
The same way you get a first client direct hire. You sell contractors. I mean, this is what we do. People do what you sell. I mean, like, have you ever shifted your messaging? People buy what you're selling, so you got to just be clear on it. I talked to a group this week and they were like, they want to make staffing 50% of their business, but they're like, oh, and we also do staffing. No, start with staffing. We do staffing. And then you can also do direct hire. That's icing on the cake. But there's a whole, it's not that complicated to sell staffing. I always tell people, just tell people that you do staffing and then hit me up on LinkedIn once they say we need you. And I'll send you a little tidbit to get it done. But you just same way. It's generally the same people. It's generally the same buyers that are signing your contracts for your fee agreements for direct hire are generally the people that are also doing staffing. So just tell people you do contractors and
same thing. Okay.
I knew nothing, Benjamin. I knew nothing. I didn't even know what workers' comp was. I knew nothing about employment. And I got my first placement and then I figured it out within the week.
And that was before EORs too, right?
I think EORs existed, but we didn't know from EORs. So we just did it ourselves, which was nuts.
It wasn't in the book of dummies.
I skipped that chapter. I don't know.
And for those listening, like EOR is employment of record. So they handle all the back end stuff for you. So the way you get to focus on it. Think of it this way as NVIDIA. Guess what? They don't make the chips. They just sell the chips. Another company handles all the back end for you.
Yeah. And they also fund your payroll because that was something, and we didn't even realize that. They will fund your payroll for pretty low rates. So you can get into staffing without that barrier to entry of having to front payroll. And the thing with EORs, though, there's different ones. Some will do healthcare, some will not. Some will do forklift drivers, others will not. So you can hit me up because that's one thing that I do is I talk to EORs, so I kind of know who's good at what. So we love introducing people to EORs.
And this is people have heard this before, but in case you haven't, when it first launched, a company that knew about me as a recruiter, they're like, hey, we want you to hire contractors for us. And I was just like, awesome, client. We're ready to go. And then I was just looked at how much money I had in the bank and I can't afford 1 week of even one engineer. So I ended up turning down the work because I didn't know about the stuff.
So many people do that. It kills me. It just kills me. And then that business just stacks up and sometimes the temps just stay there forever. And it's just so good. It's so good.
If you want to talk about temp stacking up, I actually just did an interview with a woman who has a $10 million staffing desk. Just hers. Her team does another 7 million. Just hers. Yeah. But she's also traveled the world to, I think, 45 countries while doing that.
Wow. That's amazing. That's great. It is funny because those numbers, people are like, wow, that is a proven business model, staffing. So don't be afraid of staffing.
All right. Next question. Not a quick answer. Established recruiter that's been in the game for a while, asking you how to win. Best advice.
Start doing staffing.
All right. Well, that works.
That was a quick answer. Sorry. Saving time.
Favorite book that's had an impact in your career?
Okay. Well, we already talked about Rework. That's what I shared. That is my favorite book, though. And I think I forgot to. There's so many. I'm such a reader. But I guess I would say lately, I've been reading, I switch off from like business, like traction is a good one, to mindset. So like lately I'm reading Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Favorite tech tool at the moment?
Still ChatGPT. I mean, good old ChatGPT. Yeah.
Favorite part of ChatGPT?
I'm just exploring all the apps it has, because there's all those different apps on ChatGPT. But favorite part is I'm using it to help write my book. So that's cool.
Doing the same too. So
Nice. Yeah.
have you played with deep work at all?
Have I what?
Played with deep research? Yeah.
No, I haven't.
So when you go to ChatGPT and you start typing in, there's a little deep research thing.
Yeah, I've seen the button.
Yeah. Use it.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Use it. I pay for the $200 version just so I can use it anytime I want.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what else is? Let me see. I always forget the name of this, but so my daughter, I got to show you this because this is hilarious. So my daughter, for my birthday, made me this and she's a journalist. She made me this with ChatGPT. Do you see what it says?
That's awesome.
And it's so funny. I mean, it's hilarious. And then let me see if I can find it real quick. There's this other tool that I always forget, but it's one of Google's. And have you done the one where then they turn what you say into a podcast?
The Notebook Notebook.
Yes. So not really a podcast, but yes, I took this sexiest business coach and I put it into that. Wait, what's it called again? Notebook LM?
It's Google's Notebook LLM or something like that. Yeah.
That was hilarious. And then I did it for all my friends and made them like the sexiest, like one of my friends, like the sexiest math teacher at Phoenix Country Day School. So
I thought about making like a separate podcast, just seeing how far that would go. Like, just literally using that.
It's so funny. It's awesome. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like, we talked about a lot, the ups and downs. What do you think is one of the biggest failures that you had to work through in the recruiting space?
In the recruiting space, I think it was just like once we had we had a couple of vendor management companies, we just got like way in over our head. So things like that, like just diversifying too much and trying too many new things when we should have focused on really what was our core business. Just, not focusing on what we were good at.
Focus on the niche.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I asked you this question way back when, like a year and a half ago when we spoke.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you've talked to a lot more recruiters. You've done a lot more things. You've grown a ton of yourself. If you can go back in time and give yourself advice when you like head deep in your guys' company, what would that advice be?
Do you remember what I said last time you asked me that?
I have to go back and check, and I don't. And I want to cry because of that.
Because what I said was, I spent so much time trying to change the past, and then I realized I can't. So I try not. So I don't like that question because I've spent like so much time working on myself to realize that I can't go back because I tried to go back. But I will give you an answer. I would have recorded everything. I would have journaled and taken more pictures of the journey. Like I have a couple of pictures that are really fun, but I would have journaled and recorded the whole thing.
I love that answer, by the way, because I think that's what everybody, like when your head's deep working, grinding, you literally look back up and like 6 months go by and you're like, wait, what happened? Where did like the pictures, what changed? Like this and that. Mm-hmm. And especially like I'm seeing that now with a little one and like, oh my God, he's now 18 months. This is crazy.
Yeah. Totally.
Here's actually one of my favorite questions. You talk to a shit ton of recruiters. Like they ask you like how to do staffing. They ask you how to do this. They ask you tactical, what's working in business development? How do I succeed? How do I win? How do I pick my niche? Is there a question that you wish they would actually ask you, but they almost never do?
Oh gosh.
What would be that answer?
What do I wish they asked me? I'm going to try to form this into a question, but I guess the thing that I wish that people would understand is, and maybe I wish they would ask me, should I keep doing X? Whatever, fill in the blank, because this is one mistake that I see a lot is people have the fallacy of sunk cost, that they've been doing something for so long. Like we invested in this, whatever it is. Like we started building an ATS and we put all this money in. Stop. Like if something's not working, you have to see if it's still the thing that, like, if you started today, would you choose this? If not, you got to cut it.
You're talking about ATS. Do you see it also with a lot of people's actions and what they're doing work-wise?
Yeah. People tend to like, I've been, invested in this, or it could be an employee, we've invested all this time in this person and it's so obvious the person's not working out. Just that fear of changing something that you've invested time in is generally holding you back.
That's actually really good. Well, maybe somebody listening to this needs to pick a new niche.
Yeah.
Well, Diane, I know you're going to be sharing Finish the Year Strong in October.
Yes.
I cannot wait for you to share again. But for those listening, I know it's a little while before that time period when this goes live. But if somebody wants to follow you, how do they go about doing that?
Okay. So LinkedIn is my main thing. So it's Diane Prince, or my website is dianeprince.co.co. And you can find my LinkedIn, dianeprince.co/LinkedIn. But you can always go to my website just in case if I ever get kicked off of LinkedIn. and I also have my link tree, though, is my link on LinkedIn. So you can find like the 9 steps to choosing your niche and how to get a VA and all that stuff is on my link tree. So I'll send you that link too, so we can put it in the notes.
I will have that in the show notes so that way you can easily grab that. Well, we've covered a lot. Is there anything else that you want to leave with the listeners?
I appreciate you so much, Benjamin. And it's just, and everybody in this business, it's just, it's not that serious. Like, we're not doing brain surgery. We're all like pretty much on the island of misfit toys. So just have fun. It's a great business. You can make a lot of money, and just don't take it that seriously. Just do it. And it's a lot of fun. And it's also a lot of fun to get the big checks. And that's kind of the big reason why we do it, even though we say we do it to help people.
Love it. Well, Diane, I just want to say thank you so much for coming back. Like, it's one of those things, I think, because like the summits and following each other on LinkedIn, I didn't realize how long ago you were on the podcast.
Was it like 2 years ago or something?
Yeah. Time has flown.
Wow. Crazy. I'm gray now. I decided to go gray. So it's changed.
Man, this is like one of the fun things. Like, one of the fun things about the podcast is like the relationships that you start having with awesome people and get to see everything going on and track them, and they track you, and have fun together. So
yeah, I know. Weren't we supposed to do the next summit in Paris?
We're still working on that. I know. I keep on promising that. Like, I keep on promising that.
I speak French, so you might need me to like help to. I might need to help with that.
That promise might be coming sooner than later.
All right.
I'll keep you posted on that. So for the listeners, hey, you guys want to come to Paris? Let's put on a summit there. All right. I want you guys to crush it. Keep crushing it, and talk to you guys soon.
Bye, everybody.
Recruiters, imagine having a recruiting sidekick that works 24 hours a day. Meet Pin, your AI-powered assistant that never sleeps. Pin combs through over 850 million candidate profiles to find perfect fits for your clients, even those hard-to-find unicorns. It then engages them across email, LinkedIn, and SMS with smart outreach that gets nearly half of candidates to respond. And Pin doesn't stop there. It automatically screens resumes with pinpoint precision and handles the back and forth of interview scheduling for you. It's like having an extra team member who never clocks out, so you can fill roles faster and focus on closing deals. Visit pin.com to book your demo today.